So today we are going to be talking about setting and achieving worthy goals. I'm here with Di from DiLive. We've been talking bi-weekly all about success because Di is a success coach trained in the Proctor Gallagher Institute. And so today we're going to be diving a little bit deeper. We've been talking about kind of finding your alignment and, manifesting and dream work. And now I'm really excited to get into the nitty gritty of actually how to set up worthy goals for yourself and then achieve them. So let's begin. And with that, when do you know if you're even ready to start this process of goal setting?
I think the first thing is really being aware of how you're feeling. So some people are trotting along, you might be in a job or a relationship, or you've got a certain status with your income, and you start to feel a bit irritated. You know that feeling when you're trying to just get on with what you're doing, but you're just feeling a little bit, like something's irritating you. So it's very good to pay attention to that, because quite often that's the first little nudge that we get to be saying, maybe there's something else we should be looking into. And usually we have a bit of a clue as to what that is. Okay, so that's probably when you know you're ready, is when you start feeling like, something needs to change here. And then a lot of people say to me, well, I don't know what I want. I think I'm fairly happy in what I'm doing. Well, if you're happy, you wouldn't be asking these questions. We're good at being grateful and satisfied in what we're doing, but often there's something more. There's something more. And so that's the time to start expanding on it. In fact, just today I was talking to someone and I said to them, just write it down. What do I really want? Write that down every day, every morning, every night. Write it down and then just let that be. Go around with your day and then just see what happens. When you're most relaxed, you might be going for a walk or running or doing something boring like doing the ironing or the laundry, and then you have something drop into your head that, there's a thought, and write that down. Okay.
And that's a nice recap and summary of sort of what we've been talking about, where it's like, don't get too overwhelmed with the how and the specific plan, but just really think about what it is that would give you joy and, have fun with that, but also be committed to thinking about that, every morning, every night, whether it's that you're writing it down or you're thinking it or you're recording it and putting it, as a podcast of yourself, listening to it. And so in terms of, okay, we're ready to actually start the goal setting process. First of all, would you mind covering what a worthy goal is compared to just like a regular goal, I guess?
Sure. Some people think they have an idea. And if you're anything like me, I have hundreds of ideas coming through my head all the time. And we can't go and head off and do all of those. So when we're talking about a worthy ideal, which is what I like to call them, and an idea, we have many ideas, but an ideal has that little L on the end. And that L, in my view, stands for love. It's an idea that you're in love with. Okay, and so if you're in love with something, you don't need to be reminded about it. Like it's really there in your mind all the time, and you really feel it when you start wandering away from something that you love. You really feel the pull towards it, right? And so it's always on your mind that I really want to go there. So that's why it's a worthy ideal. And I guess the word worthy as well, this ideal that you have, you really have to sit down and say, is it worthy of me? It's not, are you worthy of it? It's, is it worthy of you? Because we spend our life doing things. So we're trading our life for what we do. So when you look at it that way, and if you wrote a letter to yourself at 95, looking back, would you be satisfied that you've actually spent your life, traded your life for what you're doing? So you really want it to be something that's worthy of you.
I love that. Because I wasn't thinking about it like that. I was thinking about it in the opposite way. And I think most people would. It's like, am I worthy enough for that goal? Like, would I deserve that? Would I be, smart enough to do that? Or do I have enough wealth to even begin that sort of, hefty goal? And I like the kind of reverse of, if I'm going to put all of my energies into this, is this the real goal that that I want to pursue? Is it worth it? Is it worthy
of you? Yeah. And even when you said, you know, how do I know this is the right, am I able to do this? I'm always assuring people, if, you know, the things that drop into your head, these ideas, you'll feel it when you think, oh, I really would like to do that. And very soon after that, most of us have that thought that, oh, this, you know, how am I going to do that? Am I worthy of it? I couldn't do that. And so we start to squash it and stop focusing on it. I want to assure all of you that when you have a desire, and that word desire is not just a maybe I want, it's that ideal, it's something you really want. When you have that, the actual desire to do something is the manifestation of your power to do it. So if you didn't have the power, you wouldn't have the desire. Be very sure of that, because that's the case. Okay, if you're having a desire to do something, you might not right now feel like you're capable of it, but you definitely are. Otherwise, you wouldn't have the desire to do it. You know, you may still have to go and get training. You may still have to practice, form some habits in order to achieve it, but you definitely, most definitely are capable of doing it.
And so let's say, you know, that beautiful thing does pop into your head and you really feel super passionate about it and the emotions are there and you know it is a desire, it's an ideal, you know, there's love there. Where do you go from there? What's the first step around not letting yourself squash it?
Well, let me just clarify too. In the beginning, often it is just a want, like it's a real niggling want. And because where you're heading, often you don't know the exact steps, okay? Because that would just be a plan, okay? But this is an actual inspiration. It's something you really want. You're inspired about it. But it might start as a want. You might not have a lot of emotion around it, but you do have a connection to it. And the more you focus on that want consciously and you start playing around with it and you start building that picture with all the detail, that repetition and involvement with it starts to plant it in your subconscious mind. And that's where the desire comes. Because remember, your conscious mind is not your emotional mind, your subconscious mind is. So initially it'll just be you thinking about the want, and yeah, you might like it, but the more you play with it and plant it, the more emotionally connected you get to it, okay? So that's the very, very first step. You must play around with it a bit and just keep the how out. Keep that completely outside. That's in another department completely, and it's never your department trying to figure out the how. What will happen is as you plant this goal in your mind, there's a lot of things that go on. It might be that the initial way that you start heading, that might not be the goal in its entirety. You might not see that, oh, this is actually going to head to this big goal, but you'll be inspired to take a step. And that's the key here. Don't become so mechanical in your actions that you're forcing direction. Stay aware and open to the prompting, the inspiration. Because often it might just be in that direction, but you might not still be able to see, well, how is this going to get me there? But just trust that that is the most direct and joyful way for you to get there, because it is all about enjoying the journey as well.
And beyond just trusting, so if I'm understanding correctly, you know, we might have several wants, and you know, one or more may actually turn into a desire depending on how we plant it, as you're saying. Yes. And so what might that process of even planting look like? And should that even be planned, and should that be something that we're conscious of? Or again, is it just a matter of kind of trusting that if it is a desire and a goal and an ideal, then it will happen almost naturally and intuitively? I think that what I'm struggling with is like, how can I just, you know, trust the universe is going to, like, you know, okay, well, like if it's meant to be, then I'll desire it enough for it to happen. Do you know what I mean? Like I almost want to support it and foster it if that's the case, because I wouldn't want to.
Absolutely. And I like the saying that don't expect the universe, I mean, you know, God, if you're a God person, or universe, to do for you what it can only do through you. So say that again. Don't expect the universe to do for you what it can only do through you. So you have a part to play. Okay. So first the inspiration, and then the building of that. And as I say to people all the time, that's where the coaching comes in, or a mentor comes in, because most often your paradigm is in your way. Okay, where you are right now, where you want to be, don't doubt where you want to be, but there will be some things that need to change in you. It's who you're becoming as you head towards your goal. It's not just having of the goal, it's who you're becoming. And that's what's going to change most of all, for you to achieve what it is you want. And so when you say, am I just to trust? Yes, certainly trust the intuition that you have, but there are things that you will need to do, and you'll be inspired to do them. So again, you'll get these ideas. I always say, step into that idea, put yourself on the hook straight away and start acting on that idea, no matter what that looks like, because then it's much easier to guide something that's moving than something that has no momentum at all. So get started, and it may be clumsy. Certainly the start for me into this new venture that I was doing was very clumsy and very forced. It felt very forced, but I knew I had to step out. So again, you'll feel inspired, but you just won't probably feel very capable initially. But just be pushed. It's a bit like when the discomfort gets enough, you'll move. If you hear about baby eagles, they're up there on the cliff, and they're in a nest, and they're there, and they're happy with all their little family and their brothers and sisters. And eventually the mother starts taking out all the fluffy bits out of the nest because it's too comfortable and they're not looking to jump off the cliff, right? So eventually they're sitting in there and just like, oh, this isn't actually feeling so good. And so the fear of getting out there is less than the discomfort of staying where you are, okay? Now the universe and God know that you're capable, okay? You don't know you're capable, but there'll come a point where as you keep fostering this goal that you have, feeding it, thinking about it, that's your job, okay? It's a intellectual exercise, forming this goal, but understand once it's planted, you said, is that something we should be conscious of? Well, the only consciousness you need to have is around your goal. What does it look like? When you're there, picture yourself. What can you see? Sit there and just imagine, what does it look like? And then write down everything you can see currently. Now, as you do that day in and day out, that process will plant it in your subconscious. Now, once it's there, then the intellectual exercise is passed over to a lawful process. And as you know, that's not our department. Just like with the gravity exercise that we probably ran through a few weeks ago, if we're on the top of a tall building, we consciously decide if we're going to step off that ledge or not. Once we do, it's a lawful process that sees us head down, okay? We don't have to concentrate on that happening. It's a lawful process, and it's the same once you've got your idea planted. And in fact, you're doing that every day. We're all doing that every day. We get emotionally involved in lots of ideas every day that affect the outcome. Okay, so this process is always happening.
And that was going to be my question, because what if you have so many ideas, and you mentioned that at the beginning it can be a little bit clumsy, and that's how it was for you. That brings me to a moment, even just yesterday. I was brainstorming with a possible partner on a possible venture I'm going to be doing, and right away I had like a little idea, like a sub idea of what we're going to be doing, and then I was like, oh, okay, like let's check if we needed to check if something was kosher. And then so I was like, okay, then I'm gonna contact all those people and then ask if it's kosher and blah blah. And I almost stopped myself because I'm like, Kiki, I always do this where it's like I want things done yesterday, and I fear that it can come across as that I'm not only scatterbrained, but that she's starting projects that she doesn't finish. So it's like, so if you action on all of these exciting ideas and stuff like that, then how do you protect yourself from just coming across as like all over the place, and like almost like people don't take you seriously because you're sometimes starting projects that then don't work out, even though deep down I don't regret doing them, because it's like, well, half doing them made me figure out that I don't actually want to do it.
Yeah. That's a perfect example, and I love that, Kiki, because we are all so individual. Like no two of us are exactly the same, okay? And I love that you were saying you always just action it and off you go. But did you hear where the doubt comes from? The doubt came from you worrying about what people outside of you were thinking and whether it was going to be successful or not. And then again, what would people think? Because you're not thinking anything. You're just, if you hit the wall, you think, okay, wrong turn. You pick yourself up and you keep going. Every little step you take is heading you in the direction of your dream, especially if you're acting from that emotional place. Now, I'm a bit like you, and I tend to think I get an idea and off I go and try it. Now, the best thing about that is you're not second guessing yourself, and you are just going out, and yes, albeit clumsily. Let's look at a baby that starts to walk. They get up, they see people walking, they think, that's a great idea, I want to do that too. So off they go and they try, and their first steps are very clumsy for quite a while, but they keep on getting up, keep on getting up. Imagine if they thought, everyone's going to laugh because I'm going to fall, and they would be very reluctant to try it again and again. It might take them till the age of 7 to walk, but they don't do that. They just keep getting up, falling down, getting up, falling down. And the most successful people I've ever come across have often lost everything they owned multiple times. Now, if we ever got to that stage where we lost everything, can you imagine the people and what they would have said? Oh, well, we knew that because you were racing off, Kiki, to do an idea that you hadn't checked out, you hadn't thought it through. So, of course, you lost everything. But you just pick yourself up and go, yep, I did, and you will learn a lot on the way, and off you go again. You learn a lot about you learn a lot about your goal, and what happens is your goal becomes so much more refined. You're learning every step of the way. So just don't take notice, don't think about what other people are thinking, and just keep going. Because as we were reading this morning in the 6 o'clock club that I run, we're reading through Think and Grow Rich, and they're talking about persistence. And the people that make it are the ones that are persistent with their goal and with the vision of their goal, and they just keep going no matter what's going on around them. They were talking about a writer back in the early 1900s, and she walked the streets for 4 years trying to sell her stories to people. Now, she got rejection after rejection. 4 years is a long time, but eventually they were chasing her for her stories.
I know, I remember that part. And to be honest, I couldn't help but think reading that, but then what if her idea wasn't great? Like, what if she really was just wasting her time, But I guess...
Do you see though the difference, that's the whole point here. There is no idea that isn't great. And you are perfect enough. Like, you can't even put enough with perfect. You are perfect. So your idea and you. So universe knows what you want, and it knows the slipstream way to get there, and it knows where you are in relation to what you want. So the only way you can be guided is by your feeling. So when you jump off all excited to go after something, and I've done that many times, and yep, it may or may not have worked. It might have worked a bit. It might have given me another lead. It's not about the magnitude of what you're doing. It's about the direction. So you just keep going, and you're going to find your way. And as you do it more and more, you'll start to learn more about yourself and what ideas to go with, and what, how to temper that with other things. But don't ever second guess yourself.
Totally.
Really.
Honestly, Di, everything that you're saying does feel so innately right, and you articulate it so perfectly, because I feel like that's the journey that personally I've been on for the past maybe even like 3 years, but it's so hard to articulate it to other people when you're kind of just sticking half a finger in all of these things. And deep down, I know that it's all propelling me forward towards the eventual goal. Which
now, how do you know that? How do you know that? Tell us all.
I just feel like
there you
it's
go.
Right.
That's right. That's it, right.
But I can't explain that it's like, oh yeah, well, like, I'm doing this like little ebook that like doesn't really mean anything with this one person, and I'm doing this and this and that, and it's like, oh, like you're so busy all the time, and it's almost like I feel like people might even be thinking like, why are you so busy? What are you even doing? Because I'm such a like, what's the outcome here? Like what? But it's just like, it's all these little pieces that are, I feel like, moving me forward in the right direction. They all feel right, even though the outcome might not necessarily be so, A to B. And I
would say to you, you know what, that if you look at anybody, if you look at anybody and their goal, we only ever see the achievement of the goal. If you're not really close to that person, you only know about them because they've hit the world stage with their success. But they had a messy beginning too, and the middle. Don't feel you have to explain to people what you're doing, because like you said, you don't know every step along the way. You just need people that love you to sit back and know and give you the space to trust your intuition, to get in touch with intuition, and to cut out that noise so you can hear and see and feel where you're meant to be going. Because the more you tell someone something, it's like you're shooting holes in your vision. Okay? Just keep it solid in your head, and at some stage they'll see it. You don't need to tell them, because you can't tell them. You're going to show them.
Yes. Oh my God. That is such amazing advice. Yes. Because I mean, my parents aren't even incredibly conservative, or like, I mean, they're fairly conservative, but they're not like, you know, they're on my back all the time. But I almost feel the need to like explain to them, you know, what it is that I'm doing, so I can make sure that they're, you know, proud enough of me, or, you know, my uncles and my aunts. And I feel the need to kind of, you know, other people have these 9-to-5 jobs. They can be like, yes, like I am an accountant and I'm doing this, and it's kind of not questioned. And for me, I feel like I sort of need to own up to like, yeah, well, I'm like kind of doing all these like things, and I'm like not really sure where I'm going, but like it's feeling right. But you know what, you're so right. If you just stop trying to explain yourself, because when you try to explain yourself, in my cases anyways, it's almost, I felt like, oh God, like it doesn't even sound that great.
Exactly, because you don't know all the steps yet, you know.
And when you just lately, I've kind of stopped and just been confident in like, you know what I'm doing, and like that's what everyone's doing, and I'm happy with it. And it's been amazing, especially like my very conservative Greek family, how much they've just kind of allowed it and have been happy with me, and have, even my dad is like, oh yeah, you know, I'm really proud of everything you're doing. And deep down, I'm sort of like, I'm not even explaining everything that I'm doing, but I guess they can just sense that
yes.
That I'm happier, and that it just feels right, and there's just less of that struggle, and that anyway.
Yes.
Now, what about, I'll ask more of like a generic question. What about when, and this also applies to me because I'm just being selfish, what if you have a whole bunch of little ideas and you can't action on all of them? I'm working with my friend who's kind of dabbling in doing some sort of like business intuitive coaching. So it's been really great to supplement these conversations with. And she's a little bit more like, okay, you know, like track your time, and like, you know, this based on how much you like this, then that's where you put your priority and stuff like that. And it can be a little bit more mechanical, which I can appreciate. But at the same time, it's like, if you do have all of these sort of wants, which may or may not be desires and goals, like how do you kind of prioritize them, and should you be thinking about it like that?
That's a really good question. And often when you have a big goal, if you can see clearly what it is you want, like the end goal, and that's, when I work with people, I work with those sort of goals that you just can't see how you're going to get there. Now, what you do have is a list. I always like people to write down, and when I'm working with them, that's where we start. Write down everything you can think of that you would love, okay? Now, a lot of those you'll find are probably mini goals on the way to the big goal, okay? Because there's a lot of base camp goals along the way. So what you might find is, yes, you've got this vision of what you would like it to be, but then you find, I'm actually really drawn at the moment to writing a book. And you think, I'm not sure where that fits in. Well, as your friend was talking about, if you feel really inspired and that's really captured your emotion and your attention right now, then I would go with that. Don't try to fight against things. You know, often, again, we keep thinking, well, here's the big goal and I should be. If you feel or hear yourself saying, I should be, but I really feel to do this, go with the feeling. Go with the feeling every time, because that's what's going to guide you. Okay. And even there are tasks, people say, well, what about the tasks that you have to do to get you where you want to go, but you really never feel like doing them? Well, that might be an outsourced job. That might be, you know what, I know this has to happen, but I don't want to do it. So then you think, well, can I automate it or can I outsource it? So again, it's about the desire of, you know, I really want to get this happening. And then you might have something, I want to write a book. Well, do that, you know. It's really about following your feeling, but keeping very clearly, you know, Kiki, if you were a client of mine, I'd say every day you should be writing out what it is you want, the big picture goal that you want. And then there'll be lots of other little things in the meantime. You might be writing that goal out for a year, but in the meantime, you might want to write a book. Okay. And so you'll be inspired to, yes, spend time on a book whilst you're keep heading in that direction in whatever way shows up for you. So there will be a bit of using your time in multiple ways. But again, it's all guided by the feeling.
Yeah. And I guess that as well comes back to really the need for a coach and to have someone to keep you accountable. That's something that is just each and every day I'm realizing more and more that I need like more support and how valuable an outside kind of not necessarily perspective.
You know, I think the most value, the most value is that they can hear you. Like, because coaches work with people all the time doing that, and they can hear, you know, a lot of what you say, I hear a lot from a lot of people. And so it's very similar. And they can see in you things you can't see in yourself. You know, it's the same for me. I have a coach, they can see things in me that I can't see in myself or don't want to see. Okay. Because often the very thing you should be doing, as in, if you're honest, you'd say, look, I really do want to be doing that, but I'm scared. I don't know how to do that. And so we often can cut through that and say, well, this is what I see. And then you sort of think, yeah, okay. Like you say, the accountability starts to pop up and you think, yeah, that is what I want to be doing, but I'm too worried about the how. And that's what you don't need to be worried about. And so you can borrow your coach's confidence and belief in not only in you, but the way things work, so that you start to learn it. Because if you can take some baby steps that then prove that, oh, okay, yeah, I do see that's how it works, then you can start becoming more confident to step into that.
Totally. And I think for myself, I remember when I was working with my friend, like on like a coaching basis months ago, when things started to pick up for me, I almost, or at least just got messy or complicated. I really stepped back from the coaching and almost feared it and was like, you know, she was even trying to help and I was very much like, oh my God, I have too much on, like stop, like, because I almost was worried that she was like either going to lend her opinion on things or like kind of give me more homework or almost create more work. And now what I'm really realizing is that's never the case. There's never like perspective thrown in where it's like, oh, well, like here's my take on the situation. Like if I were you, it was that. And I think a lot of people that don't understand coaching relationships might think that it might be that. It might be someone sort of like coming in from a higher power being like, well, this is what you should do based on what you're saying. It is more of like helping you tap into like actually listening to yourself and like listening to your feelings. And then as well, like kind of, I guess holding yourself accountable to what it is that you want to be pursuing based on what you actually are feeling. I don't know. This past week, I've really been like, wow, I need a coach for everything. Even like I've hired a personal trainer. I'm like, I can't even like work out on my own. Like I need someone for everything. And I used to be so against that because I'm like, oh my God, like if you just sit down and do it, you can do anything. Like I have it with me. But with certain things, it's like, you know what, actually like, it's just better to get someone else to do everything. That's why we have, you know, hairdressers and all these. You know.
And do you know why that is? Like we all have this knowing doing gap. We know, like you said, you can go and train yourself. You know how to, but you don't do what you know. And so what you said is exactly true. And that's a good example. A personal trainer is just a coach for your body, right? And you have coaches for your mind. You have coaches for many different areas, like you said. And yes, a good coach won't tell you what to do. They'll help you to step into that yourself, as in what you feel for yourself. Yeah, definitely. So, you know, in forming your worthy goals, I always say to people, make sure you do a lot of writing around it. Write it down, get really clear on it. And a lot of us don't do that for the simple reason that it scares us. If you can see your goal staring you back in the face plainly and simply, then you've got to take action on that, right? So I have that very commonly with a lot of clients, and that takes a lot of courage to sit and write out exactly what it is you do want. What does it look like? Because then you're going to start moving towards it. Okay, get emotionally involved with it over and over.
And I think there's even fear of not only failing at that goal or like not achieving it, but there's also fear of like, wow, if I could have any goal, like I don't even know, like, am I going to write down a good enough goal? You know what I mean? It's sort of like, that's what I'm going through right now, as now that I don't have like a full-time job to kind of distract me. And it's like, okay, yeah, like you can go and dream about anything you want to dream. It's almost like, I almost want boundaries. And like, I almost want someone to be like, oh, you can't do this, this, that, because then it's easier. Because if someone was just like, oh, like, what is it that you want? It's actually, even though deep down all your life, you just feel like, oh, I just wish I could do what I want. And then as soon as someone's like, okay, you can do what you want, go. And you're kind of like, actually, I don't even know what I want.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
And the fear is more about not what you can't do, but what you can do. I think that scares people. I know it did scare me, you know, when my daughter said, you know, are you just afraid of being great?
Yeah.
I just thought, oh, well, maybe. I don't know what that looks like or how I would, what is that for me?
Yeah.
So that's more scary than just saying, well, I don't think I can. What if I can? What does that look like? And what does my life look like? And so I always say to people, if you've got a goal, it might be you looking at it through a keyhole. So let's just open the door and see the whole picture of all the things around what that looks like for you. Not just the thing, but the whole picture. And it's really hard not to get emotionally involved when you see that, right? Rather than, you know, none of us watch a movie through a little keyhole. We watch the whole screen.
Exactly.
So that's what we need to do with our goals.
Lovely. Well, I really enjoyed this. And before we wrap it up, I just want to mention that, Di, you are now in Ontario, and you will be in Toronto. We've set up some times for Di to actually come to Cali Love, which I absolutely love. It's a cafe, a healthy, fast casual restaurant. I'm the in-house wellness expert there. You probably, if you guys know me, you know that I love Cali Love. And so you're going to be doing 2 talks, one on the 19th. So this, it'll be on a Sunday. So I guess it's not next Sunday, Sunday after that. So I guess in 2 weeks today, Sunday at 2 p.m. And then you have another one. We have another early morning session booked in for 7:30 a.m. on Wednesday, the 22nd. So I'm going to share those links with you guys soon. But yeah, I just wanted to share the announcement that you guys can actually hear Di talk live in person right here in Toronto.
Great to meet you. Yeah.
So I'm so looking forward to that. And thank you again.
Great. Thank you. It's been great chatting. I look forward to meeting you guys.
Yes. Chat soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.